All right, get ready, because we're going to take a deep dive into Fernanda Torres' Oscar journey for I'm Still Here. This goes way beyond the red carpets and the awards. This film, it really became like a cultural touchstone, forcing Brazil to kind of confront its past, but also showing off its artistic brilliance to the whole world.
What's so interesting here is how Torres' performance and the film itself became this focal point for a nation trying to deal with the legacy of its military dictatorship.
Right, yeah. And for those who haven't seen it, I'm Still Here tells the story of Eunice Paiva. She's a woman whose husband disappears during Brazil's dictatorship. And that was a time marked by, state-sanctioned violence and silencing anyone who disagreed.
And it's important to understand that disappeared wasn't, just some kind of saying. It was a horrific reality. People were taken, often tortured, killed by the regime. And their families, well, they were just left in this constant state of not knowing, of agony.
It's chilling to even think about.
Yeah.
And this film, which is based on a memoir by one of Paiva's sons, it brings that terror to life. Eunice's journey, going from a wife who's lost everything to a human rights lawyer. I mean, she's seeking justice for her family, for others. Really resonated with people in Brazil.
Yeah, the film didn't shy away from showing how brutal the dictatorship was. And that sparked conversations all over the country about accountability, about reconciliation. Even decades later, it forced people to confront that trauma, that lingering trauma from that time. It sparked debates, reflection on a national scale.
So, wow, the impact, it went way beyond just box office numbers, right?
Absolutely. And what's even more intriguing is that Torres' own mother, Fernanda Montenegro, she was the first Brazilian to ever be nominated for an acting Oscar back in '98 for Central Station.
Yeah, creating this incredible mother-daughter Oscar legacy. And it's almost poetic, isn't it? That Montenegro is actually, and I'm Still Here, playing an older version of Eunice, the same character her daughter plays. It's like they're embodying the different stages of this woman's life within the same film.
It adds such a layer to the narrative. And not just for us watching, but imagine what it was like for them as actresses exploring the story together, bringing these different parts of Eunice to the screen.
And of course, we can't forget the director behind both films, Walter Salles. He seems to have this talent for capturing these powerful emotional stories that just connect with audiences all over the world.
Yeah, Sal's directing, it's key here. He uses these long, lingering shots, not a lot of dialogue. It creates this feeling of tension, of unease, that really reflects what it was like to live under a dictatorship. And it lets Torres' performance shine through, just her expressions or body language. You can see the turmoil of a woman dealing with incredible loss and fear.
It sounds like he created a visual language that just immersed people in that historical moment.
Exactly. And to see both Montenegro and Torres, these two incredibly talented women in Brazilian cinema, to see them work with him to tell this story, it's remarkable. It really shows their shared artistic vision, their commitment to bringing these difficult truths to light.
So we have this gripping historical drama, a phenomenal performance by Torres, and this incredible mother-daughter connection woven into the film. How did all of this play out when it came to the Oscars?
Well, I'm Still Here. It wasn't only nominated for Best Actress, it was also nominated for Best Picture, and it won the Oscar for Best International Feature Film.
That must have been an incredible moment.
It was. And Sal, during his acceptance speech, he praised both Torres and Montenegro, but he also took the time to pay tribute to the real Eunice Paiva. He acknowledged her courage, her resilience. He really elevated the moment, reminding everyone that beyond the awards, there are real stories, real struggles, real triumphs being recognized.
Right, it's so important to remember that, especially with all the glitz and glamour. It's about the human stories at the heart of these films.
Absolutely. And speaking of the human element, Torres' Oscar journey, it wasn't without its, let's call it awards season intrigue. Another Best Actress nominee, Carla Sofia Gascon, she publicly accused Torres' fans of bullying her online, and that sparked a whole controversy. It became tabloid fodder.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Some people even thought that Torres fans dug up some of Gascon's old tweets, controversial ones, which ended up really hurting her Oscar campaign. What a mess.
It definitely makes you wonder about the lines between fandom, social media, and the ethics of campaigning for awards. It's complicated.
Torres handled it well, though. She urged her fans to be respectful of all the nominees.
It says a lot about her that in the middle of this intense competition, she stayed focused on the bigger picture and spoke up for fairness and respect.
Okay, so going into the Oscars, did anyone think Torres had a real chance at winning Best Actress?
Honestly, she was considered a long shot. Demi Moore was the favorite for The Substance. But in the end, the award went to Mikey Madden for Anora. But like we've been talking about, Torres and everyone behind, I'm Still Here. They had already achieved something much bigger than just one award.
Right, they had started a national conversation, brought this vital piece of Brazilian history to a global audience.
Exactly. And the buzz around this film, it went far beyond Hollywood.
So what was the reaction like back in Brazil?
It was huge. People were captivated watching the Oscars as they happened. Marcelo Rubens Paiva, the one whose memoir inspired the film, he even compared the anticipation to the excitement around the moon landing.
Wow, that's incredible.
It shows the immense pride and hope that Torres and the film represented for Brazilians. They saw their story, their history, being recognized and celebrated on a global stage, and that meant a lot to them.
It's amazing how one film could touch so many people so deeply.
It really shows the power of cinema to go beyond borders, to connect us through shared human experiences. And speaking of connecting, one of the things that really struck me about this film was Torres' performance. It's raw, so emotionally charged. She just becomes Eunice Paiva. You see her strength, her vulnerability, and this unwavering determination.
I read that. Before this, Torres was mostly known for comedic roles. So this must have been a big change for her, to take on such a serious, dramatic role.
Yeah, it was, and that's what makes her performance even more amazing.
Yeah.
She stepped way outside her comfort zone and created something really transformative. It shows how talented she is, her range as an actress, and how dedicated she is to her craft.
It's just fascinating how this all began with a memoir, a son paying tribute to his mother and her strength in the face of such adversity. And then it turned into this film that captured the attention of people all over the world.
It reminds us that even the most personal stories can resonate with everyone. And sometimes the most powerful stories aren't made up. They come from the real lived experiences of people who have fought for what's right.
You mentioned earlier that I'm Still Here won the Oscar for Best International Feature Film. Can you talk more about what that award means, especially for a film like this?
The Best International Feature Film Award, it's all about recognizing great films from all over the world. It's a way to celebrate global cinema, to showcase different stories, and to introduce audiences to films they might not have seen otherwise.
So winning this award put I'm Still Here on a global stage, right? It could reach so many more people beyond Brazil.
Exactly. It gives the film a stamp of approval from the Academy. It opens doors for wider distribution and recognition.
And I imagine it also brings a lot of pride to the Brazilian film industry.
Oh, absolutely. It's a moment to celebrate, a validation of the talent and creativity that comes out of Brazil.
You know, I remember reading that Torres actually won Best Actress in a Drama at the Golden Globes before the Oscars. That's a big accomplishment, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge honor. The Golden Globes are often seen as a predictor for the Oscars. Winning in that category really put Torres on the map as a serious contender, and especially considering who she was up against.
Oh, who did she beat?
Angelina Jolie, Nicole Kidman, Tilda Swinton, Pamela Anderson, and Kate Winslet, they were all nominated in that category. So for Torres to win against such talented actresses, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really speaks to the power of her performance and the impact of the film.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it also shows the growing recognition of international talent in Hollywood, which is great to see.
It's a good trend, both for the industry and for the audience, who get to experience these diverse and interesting stories. It makes the world of cinema richer, more inclusive, and representative for everyone.
Okay, before we finish our deep dive into Fernanda Torres' Oscar journey, I want to go back to the drama with Carla Sofia Gascon, that other nominee, and the accusations of online bullying. It was a pretty unsettling situation.
It was, and it raised some tough questions about how fandom, social media, and award season politics all intersect.
I think it reminds us that even in the glamorous world of Hollywood, things can get messy. It shows how important it is to behave responsibly online, especially when we're supporting our favorite artists or causes.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of being a fan, but we have to remember that what we say and do online affects real people. We should always try to be empathetic and respectful in our interactions, both online and offline.
So when we look back at Fernanda Torres' Oscar journey, it's clear that it wasn't just a typical award season story.
It was a cultural phenomenon, a celebration of Brazilian film, and a powerful example of how storytelling can help us face difficult truths, start important conversations, and inspire hope.
And even though Torres didn't win the Best Actress Oscar, she left a lasting impact on Hollywood and beyond.
Her performance connected with people around the world. The film itself reminds us how important it is to remember the past and how strong the human spirit can be when fighting for justice.
You know, what strikes me is that I'm Still Here isn't just a film about the past. It feels very relevant today when we're seeing authoritarianism on the rise and threats to democracy all over the world.
You're right. It's a cautionary tale about how fragile freedom is and how important it is to speak out against injustice. The fact that it resonated so strongly with audiences suggests these themes are very relevant to people's lives right now.
I'm curious, did the film offer any hope amidst all the darkness?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful things about I'm Still here is how it shows Eunice Paiva's resilience, her unwavering belief in truth and justice. Even with incredible loss and fear, she never gives up hope. And in that way, the film becomes a testament to the human spirit's ability to survive and even thrive in the darkest of times.
That's a powerful message, especially these days. I imagine it resonated with people who are struggling with their own feelings of helplessness or despair in the face of everything that's going on.
I think so. The film reminds us that even small acts of resistance can make a difference, that speaking truth to power is always important, and that hope, even when things seem impossible, is a powerful force for change.
It's easy to forget that sometimes, when all you see in the news is negative, this film seems to offer a much-needed counter to that negativity.
It does. It reminds us that even though the world can be a dark and difficult place, there are also stories of courage, resilience, and hope that can inspire us to keep fighting for a better future.
It's interesting that we're talking about how relevant the film is to what's happening now because, it's interesting that we're talking about how relevant the film is to what's happening now because I'm Still Here tackles a very specific time in Brazil's past, the military dictatorship.
Yeah.
How did people respond to that, both in Brazil and internationally?
Well, in Brazil, when the film came out, it started this wave of self-reflection and conversation. For a lot of people, it was a chance to really confront this painful part of their history, to remember those who suffered, and to try and understand what that time means for them now.
I bet it was incredibly cathartic for some people, especially those who lived through it.
It's one thing to read about history in books, but to see it brought to life in a film like this, it's so much more powerful. I'm Still Here gave people that connection to the past in a very real way.
And what about for people outside of Brazil, people who might not know much about that part of history? What impact do you think the film had on them?
It was a really powerful introduction to a part of Latin American history that is often overlooked. It showed the human cost of these authoritarian regimes and the incredible strength of those who fought for freedom and justice.
So it wasn't just a Brazilian story, it was a universal story about the fight for human rights and the importance of remembering what happened.
Exactly. It reached people from different countries and backgrounds on a deeply human level.
Okay, but what about the critics? How do they react to the film?
Critics, they were mostly positive. They praised Torres' performance, Sal's direction, and how the film explored this difficult subject matter in such a nuanced way.
Were there any negative reactions or any controversy around the film?
There were a few people who disagreed, which is normal for any film that deals with a sensitive topic. Some thought the film wasn't critical enough of the dictatorship, while others found it too graphic or disturbing.
It sounds like it started some good discussions, which is always a good thing.
Right.
People are thinking about the film and the issues it raises.
Exactly, and that's what a film like this should do. Make people think, question their assumptions, and talk to each other.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into Fernanda Torres and I'm Still Here, it's clear that this film has made a real impact. Shows the power of storytelling, the importance of remembering the past, and the strength of those who are working to make the world a better place.
It reminds us that even during awards season, with all the hype and excitement, there are films that go beyond all that and truly move us. Films that stay with us long after we've seen them, making us think, learn, and connect more deeply with the world around us.
Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. How do films based on real events, like I'm Still Here, help us understand difficult times in history? And how can they inspire us to make a difference? These are things to ponder as you continue to explore the world of film. Remember, every frame, every story has the power to connect us, to challenge us, and to remind us of what it means to be human. Until next time, keep diving deep.